Good morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everyone who tunes in and watches us online. So these three accountants and these three engineers are traveling by train to a conference. And at the station, the three engineers each buy themselves a ticket, and they watch as the three accountants buy only one ticket. So one of the engineers says to the accountant, "Hey, how are three people going to travel on one ticket?" And one of the accountants says, "Just watch and you'll see." So they all get on board, and the three engineers take their respective seats, and they watch as the three accountants go into a small restroom and close the door. And then the train starts moving, and the conductor starts going around and collecting all the tickets. He gets to the restroom door, knocks on the door, and says, "Ticket, please." And the door opens, just a crack, and one single hand brings out a ticket. The conductor takes it, the door closes, and the conductor moves on. And so the engineers see this, and they're absolutely amazed and impressed that they pulled this off, that the accountants did that. So on the way back to from the conference, the three engineers decided to do what the accountants did, and they bought one ticket for the three of them. And they were stunned when they look at the accountants and see that they didn't buy a ticket at all for the three of them. And so the one engineer, perplexed, says, "How are three of you going to travel with one ticket?" And the accountant says, "Watch and you'll see." So they all get on board, and the three accountants go into the small restroom and close the door. And then the three engineers go to a restroom not far away, and they close the door, and then the train departs. Shortly after that, one of the accountants leaves the restroom, walks over to the other restroom, knocks on the door and says, "Ticket, please." That's it. All right. So today we're talking about doors. Doors that open and doors that close. How many people like it and really enjoy it when new doors open to you? And whether it's a new door is a new relationship, a new job, whether it's a new house, maybe it's a new outlook, new awareness, maybe moving to a new city. We love when doors open to us because they represent new beginnings. They represent new opportunities. They represent new blessings. And a door opening really kind of represents the opening of ourselves to more light, more love, more success, more joy. So we are happy and we get excited when new doors open. How many people like it when doors slam shut? Anybody like that? The fact is, we don't when doors close, when relationships end, whether from an argument or divorce, when jobs end, whether being fired or laid off, when a way of life that we've known it has ended because of some major shift like a terminal diagnosis or bankruptcy or foreclosure or having to move out of state or the death of a loved one. You know, endings are difficult for us. You know, it's difficult for us to process and let go of something that used to be. You know, endings represent something that we had that's gone, something that we cared about that isn't there any longer. And, you know, and it's an aspect that some aspect of our life has ended and permanently changed. You know, we've all heard that phrase, when one door closes, another door opens. Someone added to that and said, when one door closes, another door opens, but it's hell while you're in the hallway. And the hallway is that uncomfortable, uncertain space between a door that is closed and one that hasn't opened yet. It is between jobs, between relationships. It is the space between what was and what will be. What used to be and what's going to be. It is that transitional space of the unknown when something has ended and we can't quite see the new beginning yet. We quite aren't sure what's really going to happen, how things are going to turn out, what we are really going to do. Every one of us has had doors closed in our lives, which means every one of us has spent time in the hallway. And the fact is, the hallway can be scary. It can be challenging. That uncertainty and that unknown can be terrifying and make us feel lost. But I also believe that the hallway is an important place, because the hallway is a place of potential and possibilities. It is a place of contemplation and reflection. It is a place of growth and discovery. It is a place of wisdom and understanding. We don't like the doors closed, but the truth is, for doors to open, some doors need to close. And I love that phrase. It's kind of cute, hell in the hallway. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be hell in the hallway. I believe the hallway can be healing. I believe the hallway can be healthy. And I believe the hallway, depending on how well we handle it, can be heavenly. Today we begin a 3-week series called Hell in the Hallway. And this morning I want to do part 1, which is about how do we handle when doors close. So what are the things that we need to do when a door closes in our lives so we can have a heavenly experience in the hallway? And the first thing we need to do is to understand the importance of change. While change and endings are absolutely scary, the truth is they're a vital and necessary part of life. Life cannot improve, life cannot get better without change. It cannot improve for us physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Change is an absolute vital necessity of life. Growth cannot take place without change, and change cannot take place without endings. Without change or endings, there can never be growth, there cannot be new beginnings, there cannot be discoveries and transformations. A caterpillar could never become a butterfly without change or ending. An acorn could never become an oak tree, and you and I can never become who we are meant to be without change and without endings. How many people would agree that change and endings are a vital and a necessary part of a full and amazing life? How many people? Every one of us. And yet, when a door gets closed, and when there's change and ending, we act like something has gone awry. Someone has messed up and made a bad mistake. This isn't right. This isn't what I wanted. There has been a breakdown in communication with us and the universe. And when one door gets closed, we get so focused and upset that it's closed that we miss out on the blessings. We all want life to get better, and we want life to change, but we only want the changes we want. Or we want our lives to improve, we just don't want to be any different. We are so afraid of endings and so afraid of changes that sometimes when we know things are supposed to end, we still don't end them. How many people have ever kept a door open that you should really close? Anybody ever do that? We come up with great excuses while we're keeping it open. It's like, maybe it's safe to have a regular paycheck and a safe job rather than following my dream. Maybe it's better to have a bad relationship than have no relationship at all. So I ask you, where in your life is there a door that needs to be closed? Where in your life do you know it's time for something to end that you haven't given yourself permission to let it end? How important are endings? How important is change in our lives and in our growth? Here's what Ernest Holmes said, founder of Science of Mind. He says, nature will not let us stay in any one place for too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the necessary information and experience to unfold and advance our souls. This is a wise provision, for should we stay too long, we will become too set, too rigid, too inflexible. Nature demands change in order that we may advance. Everybody believe that true? And yet, we rail against change. We hate change like it's the worst thing in the world, like someone's punished us or we're being tortured when things have changed in our lives that we don't want to change. And the fact is, what we need to do is to understand the importance of change in our lives so we can get to a place of accepting the new reality and not fighting against it. To make peace with the new dimensions of what's going on in our lives and to be able to let go and trust the universe. Trust that life knows what it's doing as it's unfolding. I ask you, is there a change that's already happened in your life that it's time for you to make peace with? And are you willing to get to a place of just letting go of the need to control and have it your way and just trust that the universe loves you and supports you and know exactly what is supposed to unfold in your life? When I say we can have an experience of heaven in the hallway instead of hell in the hallway, the word hell comes from the word Hades, which means to be blind. The word heaven actually comes from the word eros, which means Uranos, I think, and it means expansion. The hallway doesn't have to be a dark place where we're blind. It can be an open place of possibilities where we expand our consciousness, expand our faith, and expand the possibilities for a more full and abundant life. But we must be willing to accept and understand change, make peace with it, and trust and let go of the need to control. Second thing we need to do is to embrace our humanity. You know, change isn't easy. When things end, it can feel like we got the rug pulled out from under us. It's like we're disoriented, we're lost, we don't know what life is because who we've defined and what's always been there is suddenly gone. And it triggers all sorts of grief and feelings of loss and upset, sadness and anger. And the thing is, we don't like feeling sadness and anger or pain. We don't like that discomfort, so we'll do anything to avoid it. Like we will try to go from one door to the next with no hallway at all. You're in one relationship, get the next one. You got one job, get any job, we don't care, anyone. Because we just want to avoid feeling pain. You know, it's amazing how we avoid our negative emotions. It's like we're emotion phobic. We want to avoid pain or sadness at any cost. And we suppress our feelings all the time. I mean, I have sometimes been watching a movie and it'll be a sad part and I'll feel like crying. I'll grit my teeth and stop myself because I don't want to look foolish crying. I stop myself from crying. The funny thing is I'm alone, so there's no one. There's no one to look foolish in front of, and yet I don't want the tears. We suppress all the time. And then when we give ourselves permission to feel sad or angry, we always have some kind of excuse, you know, because we don't like it. We think it's wrong to feel that way. So we say, you know, I'm sad, but I really should be over this. I thought I was over it already. I'm angry, but you know, angry is not right. Spiritual people shouldn't be angry. You know, or, you know, my heart is broken. I am just so weak. We can't just let ourselves feel it. We got to come up with some kind of excuse to justify it or make ourselves wrong for actually feeling stuff. And the worst is sometimes this new thought people who are only about positive thinking. Sometimes, you know, we don't want to let ourselves feel sad. We don't want to acknowledge it. I've heard people say stuff to me, hey, if I acknowledge that I'm sad, aren't I just affirming more sadness? That is an unhealthy story we tell ourselves. There's a huge difference between feeling a feeling and dwelling and get stuck in it. Feeling a feeling and letting it pass through is more healthy and liberating than trying to stuff it. That's when it gets stuck. We have a rule in our prosperity mastermind groups, and one of the rules of the group is if someone starts to cry, do not touch them. Do not say a word. Don't say there, everything's going to be okay. Do not do that at all. Let them cry. Let them have their emotion. And part of us thinks, oh, I'm just being kind and I don't want them to feel sad. No, we have tough time with emotions. That's why we do it. Let the person cry and let the sadness move through them because that will clear the energy better than stuffing it and stopping it. Does that make sense, everyone? You know, we don't like to feel our emotions. We are emotion phobic. And the fact is, it isn't healthy. We think, oh, spiritual people, you know, shouldn't have sad emotions. Anybody ever heard that expression? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. You've all heard that? Well, based on the fact that we avoid our emotions, it seems like we are spiritual beings trying to avoid our human experience. And that might sound silly, but the fact is, it's really true. Part of being a human being includes some frustration and loss and disappointment and sadness. We think it's not spiritual? Let me give you a couple of examples. In the Bible, it says Jesus wept. Jesus felt sadness. He flipped over tables for the money changers in the temple. He got a little mad. Jesus got a little bit annoyed at his disciples. Oh, ye of little faith, don't you believe what I told you? And also, he got irritated at them when he said in Gethsemane, can't you just stay up with me for even an hour without falling asleep? Jesus felt despair when he said, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? If you can, take this cup from me. He felt overwhelmed. Jesus felt the full range of being a human being. You know, we all want a full life, and yet we don't want to experience all the full emotions. Well, you can't do that. You can't just pick and choose certain emotions. There are, you know, all of a full human life requires that we open ourselves to feel everything, to feel all of the emotions of life. If we try to just avoid the sad ones and pull ourselves back from feeling the sad ones, we will pull ourselves back from feeling the full joyful ones as well. And so my question for you is, are you willing to embrace your humanity? What feelings have you been avoiding yourself from actually feeling and embracing? I guarantee you, feeling it and letting it pass through you is easier and healthier than trying to stuff it or block it or deny it. You know, it's interesting. Hallways are scary, and they're dark places where we get terrified, but they're good places too. In a way, a hallway can be like a womb. It is a place out of which something is given birth. Jesus was in the tomb in the darkness, in a quiet and silence, and out of it, his resurrection. Paul was blinded for 3 days, couldn't see in the darkness, and out of it, he was a transformed man. Joseph was thrown into a pit alone, and out of it, he rose to become the governor of Egypt. In every single case, that darkness gave them opportunity to feel and to figure out what was going on with them. And out of that, they were birthed into something greater. You know why? Because when you go deeper beyond the emotions and feelings, there's God. And you open a place for insight and inspiration and rising to higher levels. By not feeling our feelings, we deny ourselves going deeper and finding greater discoveries so we can rise higher. Make sense, everyone? Okay, last thing I want to talk about is you got to claim your wholeness and your greatness. We sometimes act like we're victims. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Here's the good news. This is not happening to you. This is happening for you. Hafiz, a 14th century Persian poet, said this: "The place where you are right now, God circled on a map for you." Where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. You're not a victim. You're a powerful spiritual being. You have spiritual powers and resources in your life. You have the ability to choose. You have the ability to decide how you show up in the hallway and what you get from the hallway. You're not weak. You're not timid. You're a powerful spiritual being. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says this: God has not given you a spirit of fear and timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and self-discipline. Life is trying to give you a gift. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. Life is trying to give a gift to you. The question is, will you open it and will you accept it? The Apostle Paul said, "Count it all joy, brethren, when you face trials of any kinds, for you know that it will be the testing of your faith, and the testing of your faith will give you perseverance. And when you let perseverance complete its work, you will be whole, complete, and lacking in nothing." But we got to claim it. We got to claim the benefit and the greatness we can get out of the hallway. Pilot Charlie Plum was shot down. His plane was shot down over the sea in Vietnam, and he was kept as a prisoner of war for 6 years in an 8x8 cell, never knowing if he was going to live that day or not. He said in the beginning he considered it horrible, a horrible thing that happened that stole his life, that stole and robbed him of his time. And yet years later, he actually referred to that 6-year period in confinement as a beautiful gift that he was given. And he said nothing had ever taught him more than that experience. In a speech, he said this: "There's great value in getting blown out of the sky once in a while. There's great value in that wake-up call that forces you and me to re-examine the way we are doing our business. Said a little differently, adversity is a horrible thing to waste." And what I think he's trying to say is when your life gets a shake-up, it is really there to be a wake-up call, to say, how you living? Who are you? Do you like how you're showing up? Is there something great that you haven't brought forth? Are there something there for you to learn, to discover, to share? Something that you haven't allowed yourself to go deep enough to let yourself become, to discover and to change? Life is trying to wake us up to our greatness. And sometimes getting the rug pulled out from under us, getting things blown out of the sky or whatever it is that's challenging can be the very thing that can wake us up. Going through chemotherapy, being laid off, saying goodbye to someone you love far too soon, or losing a loved one. They're horrible things to happen. But with God, God is always trying to bring forth something good and something better. And it's all inviting us to ask us, who am I? Why am I here? What am I here to learn? What is the thing that God is calling me to do? Even death can be a wake-up call. Even the process of death for an individual or a family can be a healing process and a powerful transition. How many people have heard of Randy Pausch? Well, Randy Pausch in 2006 was 45 years old. He was a professor of computer science at Carnegie Mellon, and he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, given 3 to 6 months of good health left. And in that time, he not only fought it, but he had 3 little children that were going to be without a father, growing up without a father. He took that opportunity to create little videos where he spoke to his kid. He taught his kid, 2 boys, how to shave. He gave all kinds of little messages. Hi, guys. Even messages about when they're graduating from high school. He did all that stuff. He was honored with the gift of doing what they call the last lecture. In theory, the last lecture is the last lecture you'd give. What would you say if it was the last lecture? It turned out to be his last lecture, and he got to share everything he wanted to share to his children, to his family, to his friends, to his students, to the world. It was called Achieving Your Childhood Dreams. You know, it's hugely popular. Many of you have probably seen it. He wrote a book called The Last Lecture. He died less than 2 years after his diagnosis, but in those 2 years, he lived. He healed. He went deeper and asked himself, what is the gift he's meant to give with the world? And he absolutely did it. So my question for you is, what wake-up call is the change you're currently facing in your life, trying for you to go deeper, asking you how you're being called to live? What gift are you here to give to the world? What are you here to learn? What are you here to share? What are you here to discover? The fact is, life isn't perfect. Doors slam unexpectedly, and ones that we don't want. Life is sometimes messy, and it doesn't make sense, and yes, sometimes it hurts painfully. Doors close in our lives. But I truly believe that when we get in the hallway, if we take time to understand the importance of change and accept and make peace with where we are and trust and let go, if we are willing to embrace our humanity and feel all our feelings, to feel all of it, then let it pass through us. Insights will come. And finally, claim your greatness. Own and decide what you will get from the hallway and what this will teach you and how it can teach you to live your life more fully. Doors will close. We will all be in the hallway. But the question is, you get to choose whether it will be heaven in the hallway or hell in the hallway. God bless you all.